Hello and welcome to the Wealth Mind podcast, the show that talks about all things wealth and aims to give us all insights and perspectives to support us on our wealth creation journey. I am your host, Katie Robertson, and today I'm joined by Una Stevenson from Pinot Marketing and Business Development. In today's episode, we'll be talking about wealth creation and business ownership. Una shares very practical and insightful perspectives from her experience in supporting her clients grow their businesses. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining us, Una.
Thank you. I am very happy to be here and be having this discussion. I think that as we talk about things, it's really important to know kind of what's happening and what's going on, not only in my business, but just in the market as a whole for other people. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to start with a little bit about your role and your business. So if you could share a bit about your background and your journey that's led you to Pinot Marketing and Business Development. I'm always curious about people's careers. So yeah, if you could share a little bit about yourself and your journey, that would be awesome.
Sure thing. So my background is very unorthodox. So the way that I got to where I'm at it was a winding road. Some people take a very linear path. I did not. I started out after college in the marketing space, marketing and international business. I did a lot of account management in the marketing area, working for Procter & Gamble and smaller companies that contracted with them. And then I moved from there into mergers and acquisitions and then into banking. And from that point, I actually went back into a little bit of a marketing role at a paper company. And then my husband and I, we actually had a major car accident in 2014, which led me down a path that thankfully we walked away unscathed. It was one of those things where you looked at the car and you think no one survived, but we actually did, thankfully. Gosh. And after that, I said, I don't want to go to work just for a paycheck. I want to go to work and be happy. I was making good money, sure, but was I passionate about what I was doing? And so he asked me a question that was a pivotal question for me. What would you do for free? And in answering that question, I was already doing it in a way. I was volunteering at the time for the Special Olympics in Cincinnati, which is where we moved from. The thing I loved about it I was volunteering for their track team. So the Special Olympics track, because I ran track all through college and things. I said, well, I want to help people get from one place, be it injured or slow or whatever the thing is, to a better place. Like I want them to be not from A to Z, but I want them to, at least get to D. So we're going down the line of improvement. And so my thing was, I didn't want to coach track, but it was like, and I didn't want to be a personal trainer. So I ended up going into the physical therapy space. Because it was kind of the best of both worlds. And I love elderly people. So I went into the geriatric population and helped a lot with that. But upon entering that space, as a physical therapist assistant, I actually was a director right out of school because I had already had 9 years of professional experience before then. And so I was a director and did a lot of the operational work behind the scenes for healthcare departments, long-term care, and even short-term care rehab facilities. And what I often found was that the operations were horrible. Mm-hmm. So I would always have to come in and kind of revamp it, reset it. And in my most recent years, or my latter years of doing that work, I started implementing AI, project boards, Jira, Scrum Master. So I got a couple of certifications as a Scrum Master, product owner, and product manager. And I applied that because I was like, I'm already doing this. I just didn't know that I was doing it until I got the education around it. And really it was self-paced learning and certifications. And then at the end of last year, we had a family kind of medical at the end of, 2023, not last year. We're already headed to 26.
We're nearly into 26, I know.
At the end of 23, we had a medical thing go on in my family, and I stepped down maybe about 5 months after that because I needed to focus on my family and just really help. But that opened the door for me starting my own business. And so I started Una Stevenson Consulting, taking all those skills that I had been applying for the latter 2 years of my work in therapy and saying, okay, well, how can I translate this into helping other businesses and other people? Then I met my business partner, Ashley, who had Pinot Marketing, and she asked me to work on a couple of projects with her. And then she said, hey, I don't know what direction you want to go in, but I really think we should partner together and we can make it what we want. And so Pinot Marketing and Business Development was born. Even though Pinot Marketing had been in existence for over 10 years prior to that, we combined the two and then really have gotten the ball rolling. So we announced the partnership in April of 25, but we actually started in 24 together. And it has been a wonderful first year of doing that work. And so I mainly do, although as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you know, you wear 50 hats. Yes, I have the title of COO. I mainly focus in the vein of how do we improve the operations of other businesses, because that's often where the sticking point is. The systems, the workflows, how do we connect these things? Because it all ties into, okay, if your systems are jacked up or there's one part that works and the other part doesn't, then what are we really doing? You're losing money, you're losing time. And it all ties back to your return on investment, your revenue, all of those things. And so that is kind of my journey in a snapshot sort of way. So.
And then the rebranding or partnership that was developed, is there any personal learnings that you reflect on through that sort of setup that you can share with people and for yourself and sort of things, if you were doing it again, is there anything you would do differently?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I think that's life. With specifically with partnering, I think, now I'll just share a little bit of how I approached it, because when she did ask me that, I took some time to think about it. It wasn't just like a yay. I mean, I was leaning towards yes. But one of the major things that I will suggest to anybody, if you're partnering or if you're merging a business or even starting something that's brand new within a partnership, is to make sure that you have the legal counsel available to you. That is one thing that we both did. Now she's married to a lawyer, so that worked out for her. And I spoke to some legal counsel that I have, and I went through the contract that we kind of drummed up together, made sure that things were, hey, we love working together. It's been great. But in case this goes awry, how do we not only cover ourselves, but the business as a whole? And so, because we don't want, if anything were to happen, which I can't foresee it, but if it did, or if one of us were to step away for whatever the reason, how do we keep it going, or what are the parameters around that? So I think making sure you have a strong legal foundation is one thing I would definitely recommend.
On the way in. Yeah.
On the front end, before you even get the ball rolling on working. And we did some work together, of course, but she contracted me to do the work, and then she asked me to partner. So before that actually launched, we actually had legal counsel and things like that. And we had all that stuff lined up before we got rolling.
Yeah, great. That's great counsel for people. Well, thank you very much for sharing your background. Yeah, I'm very, very sorry to hear about your car accident, but I speak to a lot of people, and there's a lot of life events that do change people's perspective. Quite often, horrific situations actually bring out a very positive change in direction. So it sounds like it's done that for you. So that's very good to hear. But yeah, I'm glad nobody was seriously injured. It's yeah. Okay, moving on to industry trends. So on this podcast, we talk about wealth in its broadest sense. So I think about digital transformation as an avenue to wealth creation. It's a lever for business owners to think about how they scale and grow. What advice, perspectives, I suppose lessons learned that you've seen from your work that you could share with people when they think about that wealth creation aspect of using digital? And you mentioned AI earlier.
Yeah, sure. So there's two things I would kind of touch on with regard to kind of what I would suggest for folks who are having businesses or running their business and that sort of thing. So I'll give an example first, because I think that it'll kind of tie it home. So we have a couple companies that are doing a lot of things in an analog fashion. They're just not digitized in a lot of ways. And that's the one thing that we really like to help people with. And so the reason I'm mentioning that is because when we've worked with some of these companies and we've brought in AI tools, even just organizing their documents, their emails, it's like, hey, get this into the system. The data is in one place. You can access that and see how, hey, here we're losing revenue here, or there's a downtrend in activity from clients during this window of time. What can we do to promote this product that we're selling or the thing that we're doing, et cetera? So the example is a waste management company. And so they do a lot of analog like manual processes and writing. And it's like, okay, well, there are a lot of systems available for you to simply enter this into a iPad or that sort of thing. So when the field technician is going onto a site, they're right now have a notepad and are writing on this document. And there's so much room for human error there where those things are missed. And so there's time wasted. There's missing information at times. When we did some of the analysis of kind of current state, we did an audit of their documents and things like that. It's like, hey, you're missing information. And it's because in the electronic format or the AI version of it, it doesn't allow you to skip. So you have to fill in the information. There's no way to miss it. And so that's a very simple and practical implementation of kind of an AI, an automated system that works for them. And since then, their errors, the margin of error has slimmed considerably. And I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head to be able to tell you, but it was a significant change. I believe that their engagement from clientele after we revamped their website and edited all the things, it increased by 68%. So it's like you had a huge change and a huge shift from the average of 20% that you were getting to 68. And it's increased even since then. That was when we first kind of started the implementation. And so, but when it comes to wealth, I think that those things are combined, right? So where you're having a system or an operational issue, a workflow issue, it affects your bottom line. It affects how quickly you can get the job done or how effectively you can get it done if you are manually doing these things and it's slowing you down. And I'm not talking about everything has to be fast, but there's definitely something to be said of I've gotten what usually takes me 4 hours done in 1 hour. There's just something to be said about it. And those automations and AI integrations make a huge difference. The other piece I'll touch on is actually in investing. So my background, as I shared before, I've done mergers and acquisitions and banking. And one of the things that I understand about even small businesses, there's opportunity to create a dual portfolio. So you have your revenue, whatever revenue you're making, which hopefully is increasing as we're improving your process.
That's the aim.
AI integrations. That's increasing. So we're good. But there's also an opportunity, I think, to mine data and to use data and say, okay, well, these are typical investments for a business like mine, or different investments. You can invest in whatever you'd like. But I think that spreading your wealth, it not just in the revenue vein, right? You're creating revenue by increasing your productivity and your processes and your delivery and all of those things, but you're also having this kind of tier of I've got investments. So that not only does it look good to somebody who is coming in and saying, oh, okay, well, you all are actually not just limited and pigeonholed to this one vein of revenue. You have revenue and you have a portfolio that speaks to your wisdom and your ability to move forward in whatever the space is. So if it's the waste management company, or if it's a a salon, which we do work with some salons and things like that, or a small to mid-sized business that's doing something different. I think there's something to be said about increasing your revenue by way of that return on investment through AI integrations and investing as a whole in a literal sense in ways that are obviously safe and practical. I'm not talking about get rich quick, but more so building wealth that is lasting for the business as a whole.
Yeah. It's a great way to think about the combination of the two things coming together.
Mm-hmm.
As you were talking there, reminded me, I was speaking to a wife of a business owner at an event the other day, and
Mm-hmm.
she, they're sort of in their mid to late 70s, and she's very concerned that, God forbid something happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, nothing's written down. They run this great business. It's very successful, but he is the key. And, she was talking to me about, could I help him just document things? And as you're saying, everything is written down or in his head, nothing's, logged or organized. And I thought, gosh, this is probably a lot more prevalent than I was really aware of. And speaking to her, she is genuinely concerned about if something happens to him, she then would have to step in and look after this business as well as the home and the family and the grandkids and everything else. And she's like, it's really something that that they should think about as an organization. So that I just remember that conversation as you were talking there, because it's definitely as I hear a lot of these, baby boomers and businesses, and it's certainly very relevant that, the nugget or the IP on a lot of how these businesses work isn't actually written down for others to pick up. So, yes, definitely lots that you can do to help people. I can see it from my conversations as well. So yeah, sounds fantastic. Yeah. Anything broader in the industry that you're seeing, anything that you're sort of thinking about in your business that is AI is an obvious one, but anything else that's sort of a focus sort of over the short term that you're looking at for clients across the industry?
Yeah. So apart from AI, I mean, really, even if we took AI out of the equation, which is hard to do, but if we did do that, there are a couple of different areas where we see kind of like, okay, this is a common theme here. And most of it is the ability, and of course, we're a marketing and business development business. So we look at how are you branding yourself? How is it that you're getting your story out there? And a lot of people think of marketing and branding as your logo. They do not think of it in not everyone, of course. I think they're trending more towards understanding it is a story you tell. It is the connection you make with the individual that you're trying to sell to or provide services for. And so, but there's a lot, to your point, even older businesses similar to what you just described, where it's like, hey, we've been here so long, people know our name, people know us for this and that, but they haven't moved forward in the trend of, and not just a trend, but more so in the space of there's another generation coming and they need emotional connection. That is just kind of the way the world is at this point. And it's not to say that that wasn't true before, but I feel like there's a historical connection. So there's some emotion tied to that. But I think that there's an emotional connection that people are missing when it comes to their marketing and branding. So one of our main focuses, at least as we're moving forward with helping businesses, is to really help them to understand how to tell their story and how to tie that story to what they're providing for other people. Because some things may not be a physical, a product, but it may be a service that they're providing for individuals. I mean, we provide services as well. We don't sell anything that's a physical product. And so being able to have your elevator pitch, as they say, ready and available, and then be able to really lean into, this is how I market myself. I have my story down, and it's not like I've memorized it from the standpoint of I sound like a robot and I'm reading a book, but it's more of an internalization of the story and saying, here's how we got started, even if that's relevant, or here is how what we do will benefit you. And that's the kind of kicker. I think that's the difference between somebody who sounds like they're selling a product or selling a service or selling themselves versus someone who is actually in it for the individual who's on the receiving end, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers the
Yeah,
question.
no, it's fascinating. Yeah. I think storytelling is you're absolutely spot on. I think that generational shift of how people receive information is just different, and we live in a different world now, and adapting to that and helping people with that change or the sort of different avenues to share their story. Storytelling is incredibly powerful, and I'm always in awe of marketing professionals and how they do it. It's fascinating. I think when I see it, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Trying to think through how they got there it's a real art and skill. And I'm always very, very impressed by people that do it very well. So great point to raise. Okay, moving into your organization, rather from the industry more broadly. What are some of the things that are working really well right now? What are some of the client success stories that you can share with us?
Sure. So some of the things that are working really well for us is we have leveraged, and again, I'm going to go back to AI, but we've leveraged a lot of the automations that are available within the systems that we use. So we use Wix as our main platform for our website, but they have so many things that you can integrate into it that we use Zapier and a number of different things, Asana for our project management. So as we get new clients, we enter in their whole project for us to have, and whoever's on our team doing the work. And so that's working really well for us. We often would say through this year, we are building the plane while we fly it.
I hear that very often.
Yes. And so it's like, hey, I'm putting the landing gear down in here while we're actually still in the air. And so what I will say is the reason that I think the things that we're doing work so well is because Ashley and I we're very similar in some ways, but we're very different in the way we approach things, and we are okay with that. I think if you're an individual, let's say it's just you who's on, running your business, you're just a kind of a one-woman show, one-man show. I feel like that's kind of difficult to do because you always need someone. You need some sort of connection to be able to get your things out there. But in the case of my partnership with Ashley and how we work and what works well is really those integrations of these things are automated, because I'm going to tell you now, I do not enjoy social media. It is not my thing. We did bring someone on for a short-term period of time to just work on our strategy because that's not my strength. Ashley is very creative in the design side of things. And we know aesthetically what looks good, but it's like, okay, now we have to make the time to create these things. And so one of the things to the point of the storytelling piece is, again, how people are receiving. You said it, you hit it spot on. You hit the nail on the head, so to speak, with the way that people are receiving stories. The story of your business, the story of how you can help them is very fast. It's very much so like, give me the information quickly in this video or this quick format so that I can understand it and then decide whether or not I want to move forward with you. And then there's the other piece of the emotional touch, right? Where you see these commercials or these videos and things, and it's like, oh man, that really touched my heartstrings, and things like that. So it's really us kind of leveraging the same thing where we know that storytelling is so important. On the marketing and branding side of things, we are leaning heavily into that, and that is working well for us to really showcase who we are. So videos like a day in the life, so to speak, did not enjoy 1 minute of recording it, but got it done. And it really, that was kind of our most engaging kind of post where I showed a day in the life, or Ashley spoke to her history where she went through a window of time where her daughter was sick with cancer, and she's recovered, she's doing well, and all of that. But it was like, these were the things that prompted the start of this business. and or really the re-engagement of this business. And then us coming together. So we're leading heavily into the storytelling piece and making sure that we're very clear, speaking to not only what our experiences are, but our expertise as well. And so I'll just add one more thing that is working for us is I'm actually doing more speaking engagements and things like that. So, and some are just kind of, I didn't ask, I didn't apply, I didn't do any of that. It was like, oh, hey, we really like what you said at this event. Would you be willing to do this? And I'm like, sure, so, and it's mostly in part because I want to reach as many people as I can. This isn't about just the bottom line of our business, but it is really like, hey, there's information out here and we're trying to help you to streamline that information for yourself and your business. And we are God-led and service-oriented. So it's kind of like, Ashley put it this way, and I'll say it here, is we run our business. We have a nonprofit heart, but we are a for-profit business. And so we really try our best to, hey, we understand you're a small business, mid-sized business, and maybe things aren't going the way that you might think, but we're going to try to, or might desire, or things have dwindled because you're not telling the story the way that you should or could. Your operations aren't exactly as streamlined as you might think because John has all of it in his head. And if John's not here, it's not running like a well-oiled machine. And so that's just to answer that because it's a very long answer, but that is the answer of what's awesome. Kind of working.
And how are your speaking events? I'm in awe of people that can stand up on stage in front of hundreds of people. Do you cover certain topics, or how do you think about, I suppose, getting your message out to the people that you're presenting to?
The very first speaking event that I had this year was actually about AI integration into agile teams. So if you remember, I mentioned running the rehab department. So what I did was I created my own agile team, even though they didn't know that's what I was doing. So I literally created Jira board and assigned tasks to them just as though a Scrum Master would. And that's how I was able to track our velocity and our productivity and things like that. And so it's really a lot of what I've been speaking about is in the AI space, but it's about how to practically apply it within your business. So the most recent, obviously we within our organization are doing webinars. Next year, we're going to be releasing some podcasts. So stay tuned. I'm making it a point to get out in front of people so that they can understand, one, it's not as overwhelming as it may seem. And if it is overwhelming to you, we have toolkits, we have resources available to really help you narrow down, well, what's the problem you're trying to solve within your business? Mm-hmm. And what are the maybe top 3? Because there are 50,000 things out there that you could use, but is it the best thing for you? Is it the most cost effective? Does it answer more than one problem, or, does it solve more than one problem or answer more than one question you have? And so I help specifically with that by doing a gap analysis and figuring out what is the actual gap? Because most people will complain about one thing, but that's the symptom of the actual problem.
Yeah, it's not the root cause. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I am not in any kind of boastful kind of way, but that is literally how I think. Most people will share things. And I'm like, you're sharing this, but that's not the root cause. It's actually here. You said it when you said this. But they're not even correlating the two. And so bridging the gap of what the actual issue is one of the things that kind of works, at least with regard to helping people. And so within our business, making sure that people understand as much as they can without being overwhelming and saying, hey, I know this feels overwhelming. I know that AI is for some people it's scary. It's like,
absolutely is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want this in my business. I don't want this thing, but I'll say this, that I said very recently in the AI Forward conference that I was at just a week and a half ago. AI, I think of like a walker. So when you think of people who are getting older, maybe, they're in their 80s or even 70s. As you get older, your balance changes. It's just the way of the world. Your balance, your
Mine's
sight.
changed now.
I know. I'm like, these eyes are not the same as they were 10, 15 years ago.
Definitely not. No.
No. And so as your body changes, it's the same with the market trends, right? Things in the market are changing, and they're changing towards more integration of AI and more of a need for that. So the reason I compare it to a walker is when older people get older and they start to fall or they lose their balance, usually they enter this period of, well, I don't need that. I'm okay how I've been. But it's like, well, you're actually not, because you've fallen 4 times. So how about we just test the walker and see, or test the cane to see if it will help improve your balance. And without a doubt, every time, of course, I worked in the healthcare space, so this is a relevant example, at least in that comparison way, where this actually increased your independence. It didn't take it away. It improved your independence, and it helped you to be able to move in a different way. And it's like, well, I didn't want it because it made me look this way. But it's like, well, how you look is actually better because you're not falling, or, you're not tripping over things and that sort of thing. And so I compare AI in the same way, or integrations in that way. And not just AI, but really functional improvements, changes to the way you do things, because some people get married to, I've done this way for so long, it's difficult to change. And it's like, I understand that. I really do. But let's just test it. I'm usually an ease in. Let's just test it for 1 week or 1 month so that we can get the data that's necessary and see how it improves. And it's like, okay, we're coming up on a month. How's this been working for you? And most often people are like, I love it. I'm so glad you made me do this.
You made me do this.
And so hopefully that answers that.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to think about it. And where is your next speaking? You said you just finished one. Where's your next one?
So my next one is actually another AI forward hosted event. It's in Durham. And the details of it I will need to get, but I have them. They're just in my email. But it is here. I'm in Chapel Hill, so that's where I'm located. But it's in Durham, so I'm in the Triangle area. That's an AI forward event. I actually have 2 webinars coming up this month, November 19th and the 20th. The 19th is actually having to do with AI within the agile space, similar to what I talked about earlier this year, but a little bit different. And that's a webinar hosted by Pinot. The other one is actually a continuation of my speaking from the Charlotte AI Forward event that was a week and a half ago. Unfortunately, while I was speaking, it got cut short because they were behind schedule. So they shaved off probably about a third of my time. Now, I got through it somehow, by some miracle, but I did not get a chance to go through all of the examples. I had to skip like 1 or 2 slides of some of the examples that I think would have really helped people. And the topic that I spoke on was building practical AI systems for non-technical organizations.
Yeah, great topic.
Yeah,
great title even.
So they asked me, AI Forward, which is all things AI, all things open, is I think the head company, but AI Forward was the name of the conference, and it was sponsored by Cognify. They asked me, would I be willing to do a webinar version of that speaking so that I could actually get through all of the things, because several people were like, oh, well, can I have, I had a toolkit available. I did make that available to people. But I wanted to really get into the nuts and bolts of it, because what people need is a visual example of how this works. And that's what I had available, but I kind of had to skip through it. So
yeah, it's trying to demystify it a little bit for people and show them the path. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is all this information on your website? So if people wanted to know more about when the webinars are or where you're speaking, can they find that all on the website?
So it's not currently on our website right now. I literally just verified the flyer and the information, because AI Forward is doing doing a lot of the marketing for it. I will add it to the website. I just am waiting on their approval process. So it should be added actually today. So it'll be on the website, I'd say by end of day today. if not tomorrow, be able to access that information. But we did just post on LinkedIn recently, to kind of just teasing into it, but we've got some more information coming. So we'll have the links and the things available within I'd say by the end of this week. So let's just call it by end of day Friday. Give myself some time.
Give yourself a minute. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, coming back to Pinot, what are some of the things that you're sort of thinking about strategically? Maybe some of your frustrations and some of the things that you go, we really need to get this sort of nailed or sorted out in the next 6 to 12 months. Could you share some of that context? I appreciate you're growing very quickly and there's lots of innovation going on, but yeah, some of the things that you're thinking about when it comes to the strategic look forward.
One of the things that I'll give a little look back in order to answer that question. So when we first kind of came together and started working on things, one of the things that I looked at was like, okay, how are we, when we do scale, when we do grow, ideal state, what does this look like? Who do we have in place? How many employees do we have? I'm talking just casting vision, right? So it's like, okay, but who's going to run this? Who's going to manage this department? Mm-hmm. Where is this going to flow down to within our workflows and funnels and organization? And so I created kind of just a master dream org chart. And so right now, we're in the process of, obviously we have the CEO and COO, and we have some people that we've contracted to do some work with us, specific to design and different things when we just didn't have the time capacity. But our next thing is going to be, our two main focuses are going to be financial. And that's mostly a look forward and, okay, here's what we've done so far financially. What's our projection? Now we can do those things because we do it for our clients, but having someone do it for us based on where we are revenue wise, I think, it takes the close lens off and then allows us an opportunity to see it from someone who is in the finance space from their perspective for our business. So that's one of our main focuses. Hey, look at where we are. Let's do some projections and see. Obviously, we cannot predict the future. No one can, but we can at least say, hey, here are some projections based on what the data shows. And so that's our one thing. And that'll be Q1 next year, where we're really implementing that individual into the team to be able to say, and they'll have the time now actually to kind of look at some things and then be prepared for Q1 reporting and different things like that. And then the next thing is sales. We are literally on the hunt for somebody who wants to do sales because sales is hard. I mean, sales is a very difficult vein to walk through. And now I can do it. Do I enjoy it? Not at all.
But also you can't do everything. Like you've got to.
That's true. And it's kind of like, hey, I can wear that hat, but I can only wear it for so long. I need to take this hat off and put it on someone else. And so sales is our next strategic push. We are looking for someone who wants to do, who is service oriented, but also will understand our 4 pillars. We are branding, marketing to launch. And with that, I want to give this little caveat. Marketing, because people will say, oh, we're a marketing company. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean exactly? We do marketing to launch, and it's because we understand the importance of executing on, we can give you strategy all day. I tell you exactly what to do. But if we don't help you execute it, what is the point of you paying us to do the work? And so we pride ourselves on kind of being a natural extension of our client's business for a window of time. So I will operate as though I am the chief operating officer in their business while we create the strategy. I'll do the gap analysis, and then I'll say, here's what I recommend and here's why. Here's what you'll get out of it. Here's what will change projection wise for it. And so it's the branding, the marketing to launch, the operations, and the strategy piece. And so those are the 4 pillars kind of and 4 tiers in which we work and work for your business. And so I think, as we're navigating this, we finished out our first year of working together. We're navigating the space of, okay, what's our next big push? It's sales. So that people know what we're about, and know our story. And sales and marketing, I think, are tied. The branding and the marketing, we've done a lot to really get our brand awareness up this year, because people don't, it's like, well, who's Pinot? What is that? Or, and even to your earlier question of, well, how do you pronounce it? And, AI pronounces it all kinds of ways. It's hilarious. So we have to like write it out when we're doing like a video or that kind of thing in the phonetic way. So it's, easy for like a voice.
Connection. I got that straight away. I was like, yep,
not at all. So, so those are our big major pushes, upcoming strategically. And to answer the question of kind of like our pain points, and I wouldn't even call that, I feel like they're opportunities. That's the way that I phrase it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Our opportunity, I think, is really to continue to hone in on our storytelling so that we can help other people to understand how important it is. And we are mining the data of, hey, when we told our story this way, or when we showcased these things within our story, this is the amount of engagement that we got on it. And the result is we got 1 client or 2 clients or whatever the thing is. And so we can not only prove ourselves as a case study, but help our clients to understand in a visual way. This is what it looked like. This is the trend. And once we started doing this, which is what we will implement for you, I'm pretty sure it will have a similar, if not a greater result, because you might have a physical product or, that sort of thing. And so, our major kind of opportunity is really staying consistent in that vein. Even though social media is the bane of my existence, I understand its importance in today's age. That's just really what it is, understanding that importance and then actually executing on it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people I speak to say pretty much the same thing about social media. Of they really enjoy consuming it, but when it comes for their business to even just put a system in place to be, okay, I just need to have the discipline of, I do this, I do that gives me this. And yeah, it's once you get into the rhythm of it, I think it becomes easier. But yeah, I mean, I have to confess I've not cracked it yet either, but others do it very well, and I'm always in all of them. Okay, well, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to cover that I haven't asked, and we can add it in at this point?
I don't think I said it, but I wanted to kind of just make mention of the fact that, and maybe I didn't say it in this exact way, but I want to kind of phrase it in a way. What I have found is a major kind of pain point for a lot of businesses. And this is just kind of the market or the overall.
From an industry perspective. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. An industry. Thank you. An industry perspective is that financial outcomes really rely on operational discipline. If your operations are not in place, your financial outcomes are directly affected, and negatively. That's why I'm so passionate about get your operations in order. Even if you have something that's working, what are ways we can improve that? What are ways that we can shift this? Now, if there's no way, okay, but usually there's something that can be improved. And it's like, well, then it's a matter of really creating that revenue stability. And part of that revenue stability begins with retention. So you get your operations in place, it directly affects your financial outcomes. And then your revenue stability really begins with retaining your clientele, getting those returning and repeat customers. If you have something that's very much so like, oh, I rarely buy this or I rarely need it, you need to make it so unique that people will recommend other people to come. Oh, go get this because I love this thing, or this company did such a great job with X, Y, or Z, as an example. And so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And then I just want to look at
just on that. I noticed when I was researching, you have a spreadsheet or a toolkit on the website, which you can download with specific KPIs. And I'm a big believer in you must measure what matters and what matters to your operational efficiency, but that then flows directly to your P&L or your income statement. And I think it sounds easy when you say it like that, but actually sitting down with business owners and getting them to articulate what the activities or the journey that drives that P&L or expense line or income line, is actually quite hard to do. So really making sure that you have the right things that you're measuring that do matter is an art in itself. And I think you've got some really great examples on the website of starters for people that can say, okay, well, if I'm starting to think about my playbook or the key things that are needed, this is a really good place to start, which then they can partner with you to build that out. But I'm a big believer in you've got to measure what matters. Otherwise,
100%. I think that's the thing that people, specifically, it's not even just with older businesses, those people that have it in their head. It does happen a lot with them, but even with newer businesses or established businesses, that it's like, you've not measured anything. Where's the information? Because we can't see where you're going if we can't compare it at least to what has been happening. And so, and of course, again, people are like, well, you can't really predict the future, but, and it's like, well, I know we can't, but we can use this information. If you measure this data, then you'll see the trend goes up here, it goes down there, it flattens here, and those kinds of things. And so we do build dashboards for folks. That is one of the things that we will do. We'll create a data center, especially for those people who have everything in their head. It's like, hey, part of the process that I lay out for them is the first thing you need to do is look at this dashboard. Spend 5 minutes looking at the numbers just to figure out, okay, here's where we are today, or here's where we are from yesterday, and here's where we are, okay, starting this morning, and now here's what we're going to be doing. Because it really is, it's informed decision making, because it can change depending upon what you're looking at, measuring. It can change the direction you're going to go if you know it, but if you don't see it and you don't measure what matters, to your point, how are you going to succeed? I mean, maybe you've been making it by the skin of your teeth, but with the changes that are coming down the pipe, I think that it's going to be imperative that people consistently measure, consistently look at the metrics. And I think the one thing I will say is an industry-wide sort of thing, especially for small to mid-sized businesses, is looking in depth at their finances, because we do have to do that in order to say, okay, well, you have a big increase here, or you're maybe they're trending down, maybe they've been losing business and it feels embarrassing to them, or they have emotions tied to their money, which a lot of people do. There's nothing, it's a big deal. But we're like, hey, we need to basically have you kind of financially undressed so that we can help you. We can help
great
you
expression.
In the best ways possible. And it's like, we're not judging you. It's like when you go to the doctor's office, like, hey, this is not the most comfortable of procedures, but I know I need to have this done in order for my body to function the way that it needs. Same with your business. I need to expose this thing that's happening or not happening, or this trend that's been going on, in order for you to help me in my business. And part of it is, it always goes back to operations for me. And I think, and I may be biased because I'm an operational person, but I do think I have seen how operations directly affects your bottom line. And I think that, or lack thereof. You asked me if there was one other thing or anything else that I wanted to cover. This is the last thing. And it's kind of like a little bit of a tip. It really is strategies to kind of strengthen small business wealth. We touched on it a little bit, but it's automate and lead nurturing, right? So that's the strategy. The financial benefit usually ends up looking like higher conversion and then lower CAC. So, you track the right KPIs, which is what we just mentioned. That protects your cash flow. It's like, okay, flags risks early. Wait a minute, hold on, what's happening here? Because I'm actually measuring what matters. If you can productize your services or, make it into a product, do it. Because that becomes your predictable kind of recurring revenue. And then use AI to reduce those admin and compliance tasks, where AI it's not going to be a matter of data privacy or something like that. Just use it to, okay, organize my email in a way, show me all the emails that are from this client or that kind of, there's all kinds of integrations you can do, and they're built in. You don't even have to buy it. It's in it. So
you just need to know how to use it. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to know how to use it. And to your point of mentioning those toolkits, those are something that I'm very passionate about providing for clients, because it's a one quick snapshot of this breaks down what can be such a broad and vast world of AI integrations or tools available. It's like, well, again, back to what I said before. What is the problem you need solved most? What is an option? And here are your options, because I usually provide, here's a list of 3 options that can solve that problem and these 2. It's a matter of how much do you want to spend? How much do you have available to spend and invest on this? Because whatever you spend on that, you're going to be saving money regardless, because yes, there's an upfront cost to implement it, but the long-term benefit and return on investment, business buzzword, the long-term return is much greater than whatever you've spent on the front end to implement. So that's
that's fantastic. I think it's I'm a big data person, so I think explaining that to people in a way that is consumable is absolutely key. Okay, great. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. If people want to know more about Pinot Marketing and business development, about yourself, about the CEO, Ashley Washington, or want to sign up to the Pinot Pulse newsletter, I think it is, how would they go about connecting with you, and how would they do that?
Sure. So our website is pinotmarketing.com. So it's PINNO for pinotmarketing.com. And so on the website, you can find courses, you can find webinar events and things that are upcoming, as well as our blog, which we translate into the newsletter on LinkedIn as well.
Right. Okay.
Both myself, Una Stevenson, COO is kind of the label there on LinkedIn. Then my email is una@pinotmarketing.com. So anybody can touch base with me. And then Ashley is the same, Ashley@pinotmarketing.com. And she is the CEO. We're both accessible. We're not the type of people that are just like, we don't respond or not responsive. We have automations in place that literally notify us every time we get a message. So there is no missing it. But as far as the next things, again, I mentioned the webinar that's coming up on the 19th. There are 2 webinars, the 19th and the 20th. One is being hosted by All Things AI and AI Forward. It's a repetition of a continuation of the shortened speaking engagement that I had with them on last week. That will be on the 20th, and more information about that will be coming out by end of day, the 8th. And then our next webinar, which is actually about AI within the agile space, and that is a Pinot specific one, and all of this will be under the events tab on our webpage. And so any information, and then there's toolkits and some resources. Now you'll have to click blog to get the whole list, because when you click blog, that's what will give you the drop down to all of our courses, to the events, to next kind of items and things like that. But if you want us to learn more about your business, there's a questionnaire that's on our website as well. And it just is under the contact us page, and you can fill out a quick questionnaire. And it'll give us a snapshot of your business and how we can be of service and of help to you. And, we always start with a free introductory session so that we can learn, hey, do you need our help? And if so, how can we help you, and that sort of thing. So we're here available, again, a service-oriented for-profit business with a nonprofit heart.
That's a great tagline. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I very much appreciate it, and it's been a great conversation.
But this was great. I do appreciate you having me here and being able to kind of dialogue in a way that's more intimate. It's more like, this is because most of the speaking engagements, I'm talking to big crowds and I'm having to be very general in my conversations. Sometimes I do use specific examples, of course, but it's more for the broader spectrum. And we did talk about industry-wide things, but I do appreciate your willingness to do and your desire to really get this kind of dialogue going. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. If you enjoyed this episode of the Wealth Mind podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, give us a review, or comment if you'd like to dig deeper into this topic. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.